Well, hey there, skips and skipperettes from all across the electronic wilds of Internet land. Welcome back to Tales from the Jungle Cruise. So this week is part 2 with Skipper Jonathan Rushing. In case you're wondering why it's called the $55 podcast, well, it's because Jonathan got a parking ticket while we were taping. Expensive, but worth its value in entertainment for you, the listening audience. This week's theme song is a great band called The Leisure Kings. Make sure you check them out. A happy shout out to our number 1 listener and fan, Kit Moonwood, who helped me pick out the music for this episode. So now, my friends, on with the show.
Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We've got anything you want. We know the names. We are the people who can get whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease right here in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Watch it bring you to your knees. Say, I want to watch you read.
That was what it said in the divorce settlement, was what I got to keep, a good story.
There you go.
What did she get? Everything else.
I'm trying to think of any other, I never had any really crazy stories. I remember working Indy, Kate Walsh came up the exit and the ride broke down for like 30 minutes, so Kate Walsh and her husband and I, this was around the time the Charlie Sheen roast on Comedy Central came out, and her and I were just talking crap about Charlie Sheen, Kate Walsh, and that was a lot of fun. Like, I just had like a 30-minute conversation with Kate Walsh about Charlie Sheen. That was kind of cool. I understand, like, when we were working at Disney, though, was like, they're regular guests, they're not celebrities, like, don't ever acknowledge them by their name, but that was one of my flaws. I was like, oh, hey, so-and-so.
Well, and I think that there's a difference between, hey, so-and-so, sign my bare ass.
Oh, I never asked for an autograph.
Yeah, but, and I think that there's a way you can respectfully acknowledge who they are, because you can't, when we had Michael Jackson in the Tiki Room, you can't ignore the fact that he's Michael Jackson.
Like, that's too cool.
Or when we had, Michael J. Fox would come on, or any of the numerous people who we've talked about on the podcast.
And another one, what was I going to say? Oh, I was working parades, probably my first or second year working for the company, and I don't know if you remember Game Squad on the parade route, where we have like the basketball hoop. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, that was after. Yeah, they didn't really do that,
Yeah, they started doing Game Squad because all the parade workers, we needed something to do instead of just chilling at the in-between.
Yeah.
Making fun of Ariel. And so I remember that like a bunch of little kids were playing the little basketball hoop, and I'm holding the basketball hoop, and the kids are throwing the ball in the hoop. And then suddenly Nicolas Cage walks up to me, and apparently I was playing with Nicolas Cage's son. And he walks up to me, all Nicolas Cage, like, thank you for playing with my son. And like, he like shook my hand, and I'm like, no problem, Mr. Cage. And like, I walk away, I'm like, that was Nicolas Cage. Huh. And that was kind of cool.
No, I hear that he's actually really cool when he's not involved in projects and all that. When he's just
he
hanging
was
out
really
as
nice.
a regular dude. His movie choices leave something to be desired. But the ones that I don't think I've told this story. I'm not a big Jeff Goldblum fan.
Oh.
He's never been someone who I've liked, just on the acting side
Independence
of things.
Day, Jurassic Park? Oh, man.
No, Independence. I want to slap him in every movie that he's in. It's just kind of like, he plays the same smarmy. The only movie I liked him in, and this is, if Hollywood is listening, the movie that needs to be rebooted is Buckaroo Banzai.
And I never saw that.
Oh, you need to see Buckaroo Banzai. It's a phenomenal movie. John Lithgow in one of his funniest roles. Goldblum is fantastic in it. That's a franchise that I think was too early, and it would make sense to have it be floating around now. Because what, if we don't have a super scientist who leads a rock and roll band, and who helps keep peace in the universe, that's really what we need to have. But no, Goldblum, never one of my favorite people, and was getting on Indy, and of course getting backdoored. They had their own car. And it was him and kids and a bunch of plaids and all that side of it. Rode it like 4 times in a row. Didn't want to get off. Just kept on riding over and over in the same.
Oh, well, it actually reminds me of a different story about Indy. I was working Indy, and apparently Harrison Ford hates the Indiana Jones ride. He despises it. That's why he didn't want his likeness in the video or in the ride or whatever. Even though all the animatronics look just like him. That's the rumor I've heard. I don't know how true that is, but I remember he was on the ride, and I was up in tower, and the ride breaks down like usual, per the norm, like you know.
Yeah. Because whenever he comes in the ride, it breaks out of spite.
Exactly. It's like, this ride hates you. And I remember, like, he was stuck. I remember I'm sitting in tower, and he's stuck, I think, on the bridge or right next to Fluffy. And I see, like, the car, like, next to him is, like, taking all... I just see these flash people taking pictures of him. And the lead was... And so, like, the lead's like, no, I don't want regular cast members evacuating him out, because we eventually had to evac. And so they call, like, the managers and all the other leads over, like, to evac the ride because of him. And so I remember, like, they were walking in the back of the station, and I had the window open just so I could, if I hear any of the commotion. I remember him yelling, like, this is why I don't like this stupid ride. You don't know how to do anything here. And, like, this ride's a piece of shit. And, like, I was like, thank you, Grumpy Harrison Ford. He really hates this ride.
Well, I think Harrison Ford just grumpy in general. But, I'm amazed. Any of the attractions are going to have downtime. Indy seemed to have an unnormally large amount of downtime.
I think it still does to this day.
Yeah, I mean, because I was there as a guest, around the time it opened.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the, is it 15 years, whatever it's been now, 20 years at Indy? Has it been 20 years? 90?
We celebrated the 15th anniversary when I was there, so it's about like 17 or 18 now.
I still think that ride just has, an unnormally high amount of downtime.
It was supposed to be the ride that never broke down, right?
Yeah, that was the big deal, was that,
God himself can't sink this ship.
But, and yet as it goes by, it's squirting hydraulic fluid 8 feet in the air.
That's exactly how it is.
A giant fountain of, hydraulic fluid.
And, like, it would be a rare occasion if I pulled an 8-hour shift to Indy where we didn't break down at least once.
Yeah. And then it's funny that we go the other direction, and then we have, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, which can keep running no matter what. You would have hydraulic fluid squirting out of the neck of one of the pirates, and they would just say, it's just a battle wound. That's supposed to be there. But Indy definitely seemed to have more than its share. Which, you know what? Give them credit if it's for guest safety and if it's to make sure the ride's working right. But
exactly.
Yeah, it definitely was. My favorite part of Indy was always the end of the night. Getting to walk the track for Lost and Found.
That was always fun.
Because you always got to find great stuff. Cameras, bras.
Yeah, I found some weird stuff too. Enemas.
And small Thai children. Just laying there on the side of the track.
Banjo strings and dryer lint.
No, I mean,
paper clips.
Portals to Narnia.
Got a few staplers.
We've talked about this a ton on the podcast. Were you ever there for any of the drainings for Rivers of America?
I've heard. I was there a few times when they drained. I was never a part of it.
Yeah, we found a bowling ball. I was never a part of it, but they found a bowling ball one time in the Rivers of America.
That's pretty metal.
I'm trying to figure out why there was a bowling ball in Rivers of America. They found an entire ECV at one point.
I'm pretty sure that they found some old discarded car parts.
Yeah,
and tires. And some trash cans and a popcorn cart.
They found MC Hammer's career
and his parachute pants.
Yeah. No, it's so. What's outside of Jungle? Do you have a favorite attraction? Where'd you go to unwind?
In the park, I really did. I really enjoy walking around the Rivers of America. I like going over to the Cafe Orleans, getting some pommes frites and mint juleps. That was always a favorite thing to do. I'm very partial to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. What other Disney attraction can I...
It's gone from Orlando now.
I know. I went to Disney World last year, and I was really bummed.
Yeah, but they still have Country Bear, so that makes up for nothing.
And when I go to Country... That's one thing I really miss that Disneyland needs to bring back.
I don't think they need to bring it back. That was a different time. That was a time when...
I still have appreciation for Country Bears.
That was a time when John Denver and Dolly Parton ruled the earth. And that time will never come back again. It's
better than the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Winnie the Pooh ride's great, particularly if you're stoned. I mean, it's a perfect fried toy. It's perfect for, our stoned guests. Not me, because...
Why can't you do Country Bears stoned? Singing Talking Bears. And
you know that they would have a Jessica Simpson bear if they brought it back now.
Katy Perry bear, Justin Bieber bear.
Not really country western, but okay.
I really like... They make the Kesha bear. I think that'd be hilarious.
I think we're happy with as little... Because they learned their lesson with Superstar Limo. That's all I got to say.
Well, it's no Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah, it's no Eddie Murphy in the Haunted Mansion. Yeah, I wonder how long Captain EO's got as far as shelf life.
I know, to be honest, like I remember there was like all this huge hype when it came back. Like, yeah, there's gonna be lines forever now. It's like empty now again.
Yeah. That attraction space seems to have a very short shelf life for whatever they put in there. I would be, happy. I've said this up until the point where now Iron Man at Innoventions, I was happy if they would have torn it down and put it Mission Space.
Mission Space is a cool ride.
It is, and they would never let it.
That is a cool ride.
So, you still good on time?
I'm good. I got nowhere else to go. I usually go home and pass out at this time, so you're lucky that I'm all caffeined up.
Yes, you see this thing? It's called the Sun. It's
That's
large
true. That's why I'm a
bright
vampire. I'm all pale now, because like when I used to work jungle, I was all tan and bronzed, and I looked like a manly man. I'd go home smelling like gunpowder and boat fuel.
Did you used to wear the 1920s manly man costume, the striped bikini briefs and the...
Oh, yes. But of course, I like to wear the leopard bikini briefs.
Yeah, and you would have the animal skin over the side of the Tarzan chest.
Yeah, yes, very much.
It was always the hardest part about working at jungle is you had to wax yourself every day.
That's very true. And the nice part about my current job is because I work in the middle of the night, and grad night should be the same philosophy. My boss, like, if we ever run late, everyone in my work is addicted to like sleep aids and caffeine, and we're doped up on coffee and other sugary drinks. My boss's rule is, doesn't matter. I don't care what you show up on as long as you show up.
Yeah. Because I want to know, if you take 2 5-hour energies, is it 10 hours or do you have 5 hours of extra?
You know what's funny? I just took my first 5-hour energy the other day, and it did not go well. Because like
were you jittering?
I was jittering a little bit, but because I'm just a coffee guy, like I just drink straight up coffee. But for some reason, one day I was exhausted. The coffee was not happening. And like my buddy handed me a 5-hour energy when I was doing the teleprompter on the show. I pounded it down. I got like one. It tasted like crap. It was like the pink lemonade one, and I'm like, this thing tastes like chalk. And so I pound that down, and then it gave me, let's just say, I had to take the Browns to the Super Bowl numerous times afterwards. So I don't know what this 5-hour energy drink did to my system, but it wrecked me.
Was that the NFL equivalent of at Disney? Working Splash Mountain, you would say, I've got to go drop 6.
I've never even heard of that term, but I love
because there's 5 drops at Splash Mountain, so drop 6.
I never heard that.
Drop 6 was their code for going to the.
I gotta go drop 6.
Yep.
I'm probably gonna max on this break.
I gotta go check out drop 6 for make sure it's going okay.
Amen to that.
Do we have a code at Jungle? We used to have something at Jungle that was an on-stage acceptable way of saying I had to go and dump.
I'm sure it wasn't. I got the hot poops. Get me out of the boat.
Oh, I'll tell you the number of times there's did you know about the restroom in the above the kitchens back where they used to have the Tahitian show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like character entertainment offices.
Yeah.
But if you timed it right, like on weekends or whatever, it was the shortest bathroom from Jungle, and I wouldn't tell anyone about it because I didn't want it to become popular and have it taken away. So I would, if I had been in the boat for an hour and I had to make a run, it was either the tiki bathrooms, which are technically on stage.
You gotta go, man.
But it's one of those, like, you can kind of sneak it because there's just one stall and, no one really knows what's, you're okay. But the backstage ones above the Tahitian Terrace kitchens were a lifesaver.
Those were always great.
Well, it's, we all know what's going to have to happen. We're all going to have our moment in the sun where we're going to have to take care of that. So it's
Get
not
caught
like
with your pants down.
I think we've all had that moment where we're out in the jungle in the middle of the night and we just have to go, and you just drop trow over the side of the boat and.
Sorry, folks, I got. Skipper's got to take a load off.
Not with guests in the boat. That was not what I was saying.
You gotta go. Anybody got any?
Who hasn't peed over the side of a Jungle Cruise boat?
Always take a litter bag in your boat. That way, when it gets full, you can just toss it into the river.
Probably make the river cleaner.
I know, right?
So I made a reference to the methane monster, and I actually got someone who on a message board asked me what the hell I was talking about. You know about the methane monster, right? You know about it?
I think it sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay.
Remind me.
So basically the area, if you're in the queue looking out into the river, there's the little catamaran, the little, little house that's out there, and there's kind of a little bay that's out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I know that is.
Yeah, kind of. There's no tracks that go out that way. It's kind of just
It's there.
a place on its own. So that area is got a little more depth to it in the jungle, and all of the plant matter will fall into there and start decaying.
That's
and
why.
it actually creates methane. Well, overnight that builds up because there's no motion of the water. So in the morning when we start the boats out, we'll get giant bubbles of methane gas.
Ooh.
So we called it the methane monster, and it would bubble up and stink like holy hell first thing in the morning. And I always wanted to take a long stick with one of those Bic lighters on it in the morning just to see if I get some blue flame coming up over the front of the jungle.
Sorry, folks. Jungle Cruise is closed today. It exploded.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of other great random questions that people have been throwing. We had there's a skipper who is starting his career at Disney in about a week. He's getting at Disney World.
Ooh.
He's been a regular on skipper boards. He's been wanting to do it since he was 4, and he actually asked the question, "What should I know when I get hired into Disney?" And Jonathan, you being an expert skipper, being a skipper of
very loose term.
renown, what would you recommend if someone's going to be starting at the Happy Jungle ride? What would your words of wisdom be for him?
Basically, when you first start off, don't be like me. When I first started working there, I thought I was a hot shot. I thought I'm the best. I'm going to be the best skipper and funniest skipper ever. And so I went non OG. I went balls.
You don't have a reputation for that.
I went balls to the wall. I was making Kim Kardashian jokes. This is when I first hired in, and
so you were like the genie in the Aladdin show.
Because that's where I got it from. I was like, hey, if the genie in the Aladdin show could do it, why can't Jungle Cruise skippers? And so then I got in big trouble, and I got called to management numerous times, and leads would yell at me Jonathan, you can't do that. And I kind of got put in my place, and then I kind of toned it down, after, because I did that for about my first 6 months, and then I got slapped around by management and leads, hey, if you keep doing this, we're gonna have to let you go. But we like you. And I'm like, all right, I need the money. So I toned it down. Another big issue was, I don't know how Florida works. I got in big trouble for shooting the hippos.
Shooting actually at the hippos?
At the hippo, yeah. I shot at them for probably a good year and a half before I actually got called out and in trouble.
Before you realized you need to be up in the air.
I always wondered, I should have realized there was something wrong when every time I did it, people cheered and clapped. That probably should have been my first red flag.
Well, actually, from what I understand, it actually has less to do with the shooting the hippo thing as it is that when your gun is in that lower position.
It's like a noise thing.
It's a noise thing. When you have it up in the air, it's less impactful because the rounds that we have now apparently are half the strength of the ones they used to be.
When I was still working there, we had the gold rounds, and then they got these new rounds with black or silver centers, and they were it would go a
yeah.
Instead of a pop pop, it was an
asthmatic Jewish gentleman. Is that
exactly.
what you're saying? Hey, you hippos, stop it!
Shalom. What do you think? You think I'm a schmuck or something? No, but that was that was first red flag. Everyone would cheer, and people would line up for my boat, and people would go, yeah, shoot the gun again. And then I remember they yelled at me. They're like, oh, Disney does not condone the harming of animals. And I'm like,
that was hilarious because.
And I'm like, what's hilarious because I grew up going on this ride, and every time they shot the hippo for years. I'm sorry if a pretend hippo is charging at my pretend boat with my pretend gun, I'm going to shoot it.
Well, and that's we got boycotted by PETA. People for the ethical treatment of animatronics.
Oh, exactly. People who eat tasty animals.
So. And
what's funny is that I believe I had a PETA representative on my boat because that's how I got nailed. I got in trouble because they were saying, because they called me up to the offices like usual. It's like going up to the principal's office. Oh, Jonathan wants to see you management. Well, it's sure not to give me mouse law. And so I'd get up there, and they were like, so Jonathan, we heard you were shooting hippos. I was like, I thought we were allowed to, and I never even got informed. I never got formally trained not to. During my training, they never really said oh, don't do it. They never said that.
And that's what people remember about the damn ride. That's the cultural touchstone. That's kind of like saying that you can have cheers, but let's not set it in a bar.
Exactly.
Or I'm trying to think of another analogy it's too effing early in the morning for me to think of good analogies, but yeah, that's what culturally that everyone thinks of with the Jungle Cruise is you're shooting hippos. That's what everyone thinks of. That's what they say. Hey, you used to shoot the hippos in the jungle, didn't you?
And I know, and I that was one of my fondest memories with it. And I'd go and I'd nail the hippo.
I'm not jumping out on top of the hippo and doing a transporter, doing a,
I'm not skinning it.
Yeah,
and
jumping
off
the top of the hippo, and
I don't have a Gatling gun on the side of the boat.
Yeah,
it will explode.
Which, by the way, would be the best ride ever.
I would go on that every time.
My problem is I would misremember the jokes. I'd be like, watch out for these piranhas, guys, because one time we had an English teacher who was here, and he put his hand in the water, and now he is dead. He was horribly maimed.
And so pretty much, I got slapped around. I was like, oh, PETA doesn't want us to do that. And I'm like, well, does PETA know that hippos kill more people a year than sharks?
Yeah, hippos are the most dangerous land mammal that there is.
They'll chomp you in half.
Actually, that was actually one of my jokes. Is more dangerous than sharks.
It's not really a joke. That's more of a fun fact.
That's one of my informational things.
And they're all like, oh, he's funny, because that's not true.
Yes.
And so then, it got to the point where, like, Jonathan, you keep doing this, we're going to have to let you go, or we'll take your jungle knowledge away. And I'm like, all right. And so I would forever shoot in the trees my last few years of the company. Don't worry, folks. The most dangerous hippos are the ones that live in the trees.
I got,
Splash.
Yeah. I got in trouble, actually, one time for commenting that the Bengal tiger can jump 1,000 feet when flung out of a catapult. For some reason,
I thought that was hilarious. Is that animal cruelty?
Well, no. Well, because the fun part is it's a catapult. But it's okay to say that they jump out of an airplane and can jump 20,000 feet. But 1,000 feet out of a catapult, apparently it's a scale issue.
I think that's funny.
It doesn't have a long enough range to it.
I thought that was hilarious.
So
the problem, I think, with not just Disney, but just the guests, like in general, because I feel like back in the 50s and 60s when the ride was open, and when it turned comedic, it seems like everybody's just getting so damn sensitive.
Oh yeah, but everything. Everyone's got their pet projects,
exactly,
their pet issues.
Exactly, and the fact that we can't do British accents anymore on the boats because British families got embarrassed and humiliated by it. It's like when people do white, stupid-sounding English accents. I don't get offended. People make fun of white people. I don't get offended. Like, everyone just is so sensitive.
So you can make fun of rednecks, is what you're saying, but you can't.
Exactly. No, but seriously, I think that's the problem with, like, just the mindset. It might be the guests, because I noticed that just society in general is getting more and more sensitive. Everybody's getting sue happy.
But I think it's the fact that we let them do that. I think it's
Disney enables the guests to do that. And it should be like, look, we're trying to entertain you. If you don't like it, don't go on the ride.
Well, yeah, and I think that, there are certain things. There was an issue. There was a joke that was told for a long time at the Indy queue. Hey, look over there, the family of monkeys. There was this where they were over there. There were people who were. There was a group of people. Mother, father, children, and you call them a bunch of monkeys, and you make them dance for your amusement.
It's hilarious. It's cute. Everybody has a good time.
Unless they are an oversensitive African American family,
then
which is what happened, and that family went to City Hall and raised hell because they were being called monkeys. And it's the problem is that out of context, it's fine. If you put it in that particular context, there's an issue, which is going to happen so infrequently.
You can turn any joke racist. You can turn any joke offensive. But I understand people don't have a sense of humor, but come on, people. We're not. It's not a racial slur. That's the one problem with just America in general, and the whole and Disney, as you said, is enabling it. I understand the customer's always right. I'm a full capitalist myself. They're paying
customer's not always right. The customer's an ass. Let's be honest. The customer
you got
isn't
a point
always
there
right.
Too.
The customer is a douche.
And the one thing is, the nice thing about Disney is that no matter how much Disney charges to get into Disney, people will always go. No matter how crappy the economy gets, so you can charge $1,000 for a one-day, one-park ticket, people will still go.
Yes, and those are the people who are coming in from Dubai.
Exactly.
Because they're the only ones who can afford that kind of a ticket.
And yet they raise, and that's one thing is that they keep raising annual pass prices and everything. It's like $700 now.
I've got a solution for it. Let us come back and work for free one day a month. Would you work an 8-hour shift once a month for free?
Let's see.
If you, you had to stay by the OG, you had to stay by the Disney rules. Would you take a day?
What's in it for me for that though? I'm not even getting paid.
But you get to work at the Jungle Cruise
that
one
would
day
be
a
fun.
month.
That would be fun. That would be cool to do that.
See, that's how you bring the prices down. Is you get a volunteer army.
It seems like there'd be a lot of labor laws that would have a lot of say so with that. I'd be down for it. It just seems like there'd be a lot of red tape there.
Yeah. My plan is actually...
Form of slavery.
Yeah, my plan is actually at some point when I retire to go back.
Isn't that what it is?
When I hit 65, I'm going to be reapplying and hoping that the statute of limitations has run out on my rehire status. I don't actually know. It's like Schrodinger's rehire status. I don't want to look in the box.
I left on good terms with Disney. I think I have rehire status.
I'm making quantum physics jokes on a Jungle Cruise podcast.
Maybe you could
This is maybe not the smartest thing to do.
This is a highbrow show here.
But I don't want to know. I'm at this point.
It's like looking into the sun.
I should have left on a good side. I had a safety on my record, but it should be fine. But
I think you're fine.
Yeah, but I don't know how much they've listened to the podcast.
See, I ran myself ragged. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and what I was doing was, because I asked them pretty much like, hey, I got this new job at NFL Network. I'm working like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and this was at the time where I had a lot of seniority. I had like the 8 to 5, 9.
I know.
I had the 8 to 4:30 Jungle Cruise shift, and I'm coming out here from beautiful downtown Culver City, commuting to L.A. or commuting to Anaheim, and I was late like 2 or 3 of the days. I was really good on points. I never had a safety on my record.
I'm sure you were fine.
I had a lot of coachings. A lot of coachings. And I didn't have any writtens, but I had a lot of coachings. But and so I had to commute. So literally, I would work my TV show out here in Culver City, and then I would book it. And luckily, my boss at NFL were cool. I told them my situation. They let me leave like an hour or 2 hours early, and I'd go work at Disney, and then with no sleep, and I would work at the Jungle Cruise for 8 hours a day.
Because that's safe. That's good guest safety.
And I would try to ER too, and they were like, this was like right in this heart of summer. They're like, nope, no ER in. And I told the leads like, hey, I'm really, really tired.
So you were on like 6 hours, 5 hours a night of sleep?
And I couldn't call out because it was my 2 weeks. Like I couldn't call out, and so I would literally, and so I'd get off at like 4:30. I would go home. I'd sit in traffic. When I'd go home to Chino in Inland Empire, I'd go home, sleep for 2 or 3 hours, and then I would drive back and do it all over again. I would work literally 16-hour days.
Yeah. Now, did you get your last boat? Did you actually get a chance?
I got a last boat, but I don't know, since you've been gone, there are no more last boats. It's been ruined. Like, so many people ruined that experience for everyone.
Yep.
But luckily, my last boat, like, the lead was really cool. A lot of like the skippers that were working got to go on. I wasn't an OG at all. I had a few guests in my boat, but I was just like, hey guys, this is my last boat.
So you were a daytime shift. See, the trick was to get your last shift as a nighttime closing shift.
That was like the last boat of the night closing.
Yeah, because it has to be the last boat of the night.
Ideally, I wanted that. I even asked, like, can I get a night shift or an evening shift before I go to work, and they didn't happen. And they're like, no last boats. No.
I had the best, because I had 2 last boats, thank God. Both the times I was there, I was able to do that. But my idea was brilliant. We had a lead at the time named Scott, and Scott was a cool dude. Still, I think one of the best guys I worked with at Disney, and we were really good. And what I wanted to do was bring the evac ramp to the Indy queue and unload the entire boat at the Indy queue.
That's hilarious.
And put the boat into slow throttle forward with nobody on it, and just let it coast through the jungle slowly.
That'd be perfect.
Until it shows up at the dock, and Scott just sees it floating there, and of course can panic, because I'm sure at that point would be the one point where someone had the track switches thrown and it would derail, or
that's usually what would happen.
But that was what we wanted to do, just be a ghost boat. Just let it drift and have him wonder what the hell happened.
That would be hilarious.
So yeah, there actually was a famously, I don't know if you've heard this story. This is one of my favorite jungle stories. There was a skipper who came through and had like a hoodie and all that in the boat with him.
I believe I heard this story.
And so he gets to the dock. He locks the boat down and unloads, but he's in street clothes by that point, and he unloads and walks off the boat with the guests. So the boat's sitting there at the dock with no skipper on it, and no one knows what just happened. So then
I did hear that story.
Then he walks up through the exit back in his Disney outfit a minute or two later, and everyone is trying to figure out what the hell happened.
I think it's hilarious. See, I wish we could do stuff like that.
See, those were the kind of things that made the jungle worthwhile.
Exactly.
But tell me, it was a defining part of your life. You have no regrets. You would have done it again in a heartbeat, I would assume?
I would. It was a very good experience. I made a lot of lifelong friends that I'm still really connect with today. And it was a very great experience. And anyone who is interested in Jungle Cruise, ever wants to do it, go for it.
I mean, if you're getting paid, $25 an hour, you'd be back there in a heartbeat.
If I didn't make
Yeah.
all of the money I'm making now, if I made the money now, I'd do it still. But
Yeah, that's always my argument. If I was making at Disney what I'm making now, which technically being unemployed, I would be.
you're
But
self-employed.
I'm self-employed. Yeah, the drive down would be the killer. So. And it's okay, because in a couple of years we'll have Harry Potter opening up at Universal. And
And we'll have actually legit
then
competition.
then they'll have to let Jungle go back to being good. And that's not fair. Jungle is still great. There's still great people
It could,
there.
but think of the potential. It could be 100 times better.
Yeah, it's just, it's things deteriorate, and I don't know what Jungle looks like in 100 years.
And one thing that bothers
in like 40 more years for the 100th anniversary. I don't know in 30 or 40 years what Jungle looks like.
if we'll even be there.
Well, and there's a lot of a push to get the skippers out of the boats.
I know pretty soon we're just going to have audio-electronic
Yep.
robots driving the boats, which
Well,
I think is
or
stupid.
people driving with an audio loop over the top.
I think that would be the worst thing in the world. That
Yeah.
was like my nightmare. And it got to the point where, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like one of the major decisions, like the day I put in my 2 weeks, I don't know if you've been on the boats recently with the new netting and
new tie downs
and you have to tie out the boat, and I'm like in the net, and I'm like, this isn't the Jungle Cruise that I know.
It is guest safety. I mean, I hate to say it, but I've picked guests out of the water before.
I have too.
It
It sucks, but a lot of it is skipper error too,
Well-
and guests are getting stupid too. Like the guests will just throw their kid.
into the water.
They'll toss you the kid, and like hey,
Toss the kid into the water with the hippos. 'Cause
Exactly.
That's,
I'm full aware of safety. I'm a big safety guy myself, and that's the number one priority. But it got to the point with like these like razor sharp like edges holding the nets there, and it's like if Walt saw this, it's like, what is this? Hanging off the boat every time we load it and unload it, and
actually,
like,
razor wire on the sides of the boats would be much more interesting.
it should be much more of a challenge. And like it was funny, the day we were getting signed off or trained on that was that I put in my 2 weeks, and I did the full training, I passed it and everything, and I'm like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. I got another job.
Yeah, no, it's
I can't do this.
Well, and it's there's always going to be those safety changes and little tweaks to it. I remember when they didn't have the boathouse, the dock house, it was a lot more relaxed. I remember people who would drive their ECVs through the exit line and not stop and literally almost put their ECV in the water.
Oh, I've seen that numerous times. It's fantastic.
People go. Someone actually came to the point where the ECV kept on going and hit a boat, and if there hadn't been a boat there, the ECV would have gone in the water.
Oh, we all love those ECVs.
The great green monstrosities.
Exactly. And what was another thing I wanted to touch base on? Oh, basically, one thing about I wish that management would be better at. I love Disney. The managers were great and everything, but anything that involved creativity, because they have the Spiel submission box, and me and countless other skippers, we put PG rated good decent jokes, hey, this would be appropriate, age kid appropriate, and it was deny. Very few, occasionally a joke would trickle into the OG, but any creativity when skippers are trying to do characters or voices or use puppets and
ventriloquism on the boat.
Exactly.
Or...
No, but you know what I mean. That's hilarious. And that was one thing that bothered me is that any time there was any involved, because I did a lot. I like doing voiceover work, and so I would do different character voices, and so obviously that was very frowned upon. I wouldn't do Disney voices. I would just create my own stupid voices, and they were just just say the spiel normally. It was every little bit of creativity. It was just kind of no, don't do that.
I did quite a few trips around the jungle as Charlton Heston.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was my big character voice was Charlton Heston. So, but yeah, no, I know, and I think part of it is
it's they frown on creativity, and the sad thing is, it's the people that last. The people who still work there are great, but a lot of the people that are just angry and miserable are the ones that end up working at Disney for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah,
and the ones that actually love it, they kind of suck the fun out of it, and they don't want to work there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think that
that's just me though.
There is always there's ebb and flow. And I think that there's going to be a point where there was a point before where there was no joke submission. I mean, where there was nothing to do. I mean, there's definitely flexibility, and I think that the lead team and managers, it's hard to get that perspective, but we know in our heads that they're not doing it because they're jerks.
I know.
They're
that.
doing it because they think that it's in the best interest of the ride, and it's tough because there's a perception. I don't know. I've always kind of bristled against this whole you're not the show, you're an element of the show, or the show is the jungle and you're just there. You know what, to be very honest, the skippers are the show.
It is.
And anyone who doesn't think that, doesn't understand the history of the ride, doesn't understand what the guests are coming in for, but they have to have that mentality, because even though the skippers are the show, if they acknowledge it, then that changes the dynamic.
And then it becomes just a stand-up comedy routine.
It is, and it's not a stand-up comedy routine. And it has a much different nuance of it, but they have to basically take that line, because if they don't, then it becomes annoying, and you get a bunch of, blowhard a-holes up there who are really ruining it for everyone else. And you need to have that balance. But
exactly.
But it has to have that. It has to have character. Disney, unfortunately, the Adventurers Club in Orlando is gone. For me, that was the pinnacle of character-driven show. That was the best, in my opinion, one of the best things Disney has ever done, is the Adventurers Club in Orlando. It's why I sign off all my shows with a hearty kungaloosh, because I want to keep that spirit alive. Man. Adventurers Club was the single thing at Disney that I regret being gone. Like, if I had $100 million, I would hand money over to them and say, bring back the effing Adventurers Club, or I'll do it myself. I'll open up my own bar.
And with me, mine's the Rocket Rods.
No, Rocket Rods was awful. There's nothing. Oh, you've just invalidated the last hour and a half of discussion.
I'm joking.
No.
I went on the Rocket Rods once. I waited like 4 hours. And the ride, I think, it broke down while I was on it.
But, no, I think the jungle has to have a leash on the skippers. Because you get too many people coming through who don't get it, and who become, egotistical, joke stealing, break maxing. Everyone at the ride hates them. Yeah, you get these people that come through, and then you have the percentage who do it right and who keep the spirit of the ride in their hearts. But because of the other people, you can't do those things, because they screw it up for everyone.
And that's how it is, exactly. Like, one thing I wanted to touch base on pretty much is like as you said, people who ruin the experience for others. I think there needs to be a more stricter screening process for skippers, because when I was there, they were constantly cross-training people and hiring people at Jungle that did not want to be there, and they hated Jungle. And they always shift trade. I don't want to work it. Jungle Cruise can't be a ride. You can't force someone to do that.
Yeah.
That's pure. Because the number one fear apparently is people's public speaking in front of a crowd. It's people. That's a personal hell for them, is working the Jungle Cruise. And I knew people that hated doing it. Jungle Cruise needs to be a thing where you want to be there, and I think they need to make the screening process down. It should be like an entertainment pay kind of thing. Basically, skippers deserve, because we are putting on a show. We are putting on
Well, and the whole reason why it's not in the entertainment union,
because we drive heavy machinery.
Because there's the attraction, because it's the ride operation.
Exactly.
So yeah, but no, I've always thought that, unfortunately, the budgets and everything is not set so that you can have classes, or you can work with skippers to get their confidence levels up.
And they need to be more picky on the selecting process, because obviously not everyone is meant to do Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, but I think that those people get weeded out pretty quickly. I think that I don't think a lot of people are hanging in for months and years who are not suited for it. I think the jungle cleans them out.
Well, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
People who should want to be there, it's hey, I understand they have business needs and they got to put certain people in certain places, a certain amount of people, but obviously it takes an acquired taste and acquired talent to be good at it. It's one thing to want a Jungle Cruise, it's another thing to be good at it.
I think that was one of the downsides of the landlock, is that because you were tied into your area, that you couldn't, because you were way after that. You don't even know, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was always in
that. For a while, you could work in Tomorrowland one day,
and I would have loved to do that.
Day.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, and the reason why they pulled it down was because they wanted a tighter management rein, knowing a smaller pool of people and having more check-ins. Did you have management check-ins?
I did, and it was always the same. Hey, how are things going? Good. Any questions? No, yeah, I'm just hanging out and doing that. Well, that's cool. All right, I will get back to your attraction.
Yeah. Not the most...
It was cool, I could sign off on him.
Yeah, it was not the most in-depth process for the
I
management
had some really cool
reviews.
managers that actually did care, though. I say that very tongue-in-cheek. Like, there were managers that did care. Like, obviously, no matter where you go, you're going to have good managers and bad managers.
Yeah. No, and there were some. I could give shout-outs all day long to the people who, were fantastic in my area. I mean, there are people who are still there now that I run into. If I go to the park and I don't run into Dave Atkins, it's a sad day for me. For me, I would rather see Dave than Mickey. There's just half a dozen people who,
Exactly.
who made the attraction. So,
and there's like a lot of people I'm still good friends with today. Like a lot of the managers I still keep in touch with through Facebook, Twitter, the social media, email. I can see them at the park. I always make sure I always say hi to them. So Disney is one thing. It does build like good relationships. And the one thing I do need to touch base on about the whole skipper thing is that when I was in college, everyone would try to get me to join a fraternity and everything. I was like, I don't need to join a fraternity. I'm already in a fraternity of skippers.
Yep.
And I feel like the whole mentality, once a skip, always a skip, I believe fully hard that. It's like, hey man, like, we know each other. Like, oh, you're a skipper? I was too. It's like, boom, we get it.
Yep.
We can click.
I've said it before. We need a fraternal order of hippos.
I agree.
If they have the Elks Lodge, we need a Hippos Lodge. We need a gathering place in Anaheim.
The Soil Order of the Water Buffalo.
So when I hit my Powerball winnings, that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if you remember, this may be before your time as well, on the corner of Catella and Euclid, there used to be a bar called Captain Bombay's.
I think I've seen it. I don't think I've ever been there.
It's now a different sports bar, but we actually had a couple of skippers. We were looking into buying it. We were going to open a skipper bar, and now they have Trader Sam's, so why the hell do you need to?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have magically money raining down from the sky. And
I agree, my man. Just make it rain.
Yep. So.
But one thing I think would be nice if Disney would do, because I know Disney has like their alumni club with former cast members. What just skippers and Adventureland people need to do, we need to create like keep in touch with like old current skippers.
They have that. It's amazing.
Like obviously you and I are here now.
It's called Facebook.
Exactly.
And
no, but I meant like Disney needs to do something.
But it's not Disney's role to do.
I know it's not.
I actually would rather not have Disney involved with it because then you get the legal side of it.
Oh, that's true.
There's in August there's a reunion of 1980s and 90s skippers coming up, and West Side employees. It's going to happen. So I mean, these things happen already, kind of organically.
Maybe I'm just unaware of it. Maybe
yeah, and I think a lot of because of the podcast, I'm in touch with a lot of different generations. I have a skip from the '60s that we're working on interviewing. We're trying to get the older generation to give their stories too. But yeah, I mean, I think Facebook has been the big, social motivator that's
a great
gotten
tool.
It's gotten those older groups together. So, all right, well, so we're getting to the point where I'm gonna have to split it into 2 episodes anyways. So
I'm sorry we've gone a little long.
No, this is fine. I'd rather have have it stretched so I can fill some time.
Just cut all
and
the
space.
crap out.
Fill some time and space. So, yeah. Anything else? Any other fun? Anything else you want?
I'm trying to think of other fun stories that I can think of. Because I know as soon as I get in the car and drive away, I'm going to think of like 3 stories. Like, I remember there was this one grad night that I was working. That it was actually it was really really fun. Basically, we had 2 out of bounders like that were on the track on the steam train, and they jumped out of the train apparently while I was moving, and they like ran into the jungle and hid. And so we had to and I remember security ran into the jungle, shut the jungle down. We got out of bounders in the jungle, and I'm like sweet. And so I got to take one of like the search boats out, and so I had like 3 security dudes, and I had like the little spotlight, and I'm driving through the jungle, and like I radio Jungle Central to turn off all the sound and animation. And so it's just pitch black. And so we're driving through, and I had the spotlights on, and we're just searching, and I'm using is there anybody alive out there?
There are few things more terrifying than being out in the jungle at night
creepy.
With sound and animation down.
And
lights, and having it be totally pitch black.
And quiet.
Yeah. And the giant mother effing wolf spiders that are out there. Have you seen the spider webs that are out in
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those things they're 6 inches long, and they have a worse attitude than,
And the demon bird that's out there. But I remember, so we're searching the entire jungle looking for these 2 or 3 kids, and we ended up passing Trader Sam, and there's a little like jump off spot on the right with like those huge leaves, and I put the light on, and I put the light right on them, and the 3 kids are laying underneath the leaves, And I'm like, hey, and the one security guy in the boat, I'm driving the boat, it's moving. The security guy just jumps out of the boat, almost lands on the water, and like lands on the thing and they just run off and chases the kids down. And so the other security guy's like, back to the dock. I full throttle back to the dock, and I turn the boat off, and then like we run backstage to try to find these kids. This one security guy pretty much tackles the one guy and like zip ties, I felt like I was like in a crime scene chase. It was fun. And these kids like, what are you guys doing here? And I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but that was just a really fun experience chasing down these kids.
But I think that's, I'm sure that they just wanted to have what we had as cast members, which is we get to see the little bits of backstage magic.
Exactly.
Did you get to do a safari? Did you get to go out and tour?
Oh yeah. And that's one thing that was bummed about, like, toward the end of my working at Disney, is that they pretty much put a stop to safaris. Only Leeds managers can go out there.
They put a stop to that back in my day. I only got to go on my very last day because one of the leads was great about it and took me out. And I have, the backside of the giraffe with the Elvis on the back of the Elvis.
I love that.
I have a picture of myself riding the rhino. Because
I wish I took pictures. I never had any pictures of me doing that stuff.
My last day, I left my $3,000 digital camera at home, and I had to use a disposable from. But
at least imports. You had a camera to capture the memories.
Oh, you could have bought one as well, but it's not on Disney Pay.
Exactly.
Those disposables at $20, that's a lot of money.
I know, right? And Disney on the thanks for all the money, But. Working in the jungle was a great experience, and that was one thing I did enjoy. I loved going on safari. Like, whenever I had a cool lead, like when I first hired in, like hey, you want to go on safari? Like, during one of my tasks or breaks, like, cool, let's go.
Yep.
And we'd go out, and we'd, like, hide stuff in the jungle, and, like, one of the leads would go, and, like, we'd have, like, skip or lust or hide and go seek, and we would hide, like, random artifacts in the jungle, and, like, as we're doing our spills, we'd, like, find them, like, oh, yeah, I found the little Mickey Mouse.
There were Stitch plushes. That was the big thing, in the early 2000s they would hide Stitches out in the jungle, or Simbas. There was a Simba plush that wound up in the jungle at various times. So
that's pretty cool.
But I think it breaks the show a little bit.
It does, but it's still kind of fun.
So.
It has its pros and its cons.
Yep.
But any other questions you want to ask me?
Well, and now you work with both pros and cons in the NFL.
Well said.
So, a lot of cons.
Mostly on the Oakland Raiders. But.
Yeah, well, I hear they're going to go 10-2 this year, 10 convictions and 2 prosecutions. So, all right. As I tell my only football joke, so it's not a football guy. All right, guys. So that's basically it for this beautiful episode, coming to you from beautiful downtown Culver City of the Jungle Cruise. Tales from the Jungle Cruise is a production of Skipcast Networks. For more fine quality entertainment, join us on our webpage. I don't even know what the hell it is. Facebook.com/Skipcast. Facebook.com/Jungle Cruise. CREWS. If you are a skipper or know a skipper and would like to appear on the show, email us at JungleCruiseCREWS@gmail.com. I don't do the early stuff. Skipper Jonathan, it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to make this happen for about 6 months. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It was been a pleasure, and it was a pleasure to be had.
And now you can recount your time and show your grandchildren your shame. So.
I will.
All right, guys. Have a great one out there, and hearty and kungaloosh to you all.